Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Today, I will walk you through 2015 results with a presentation structured in three parts. First, I will start by outlining the main highlights of 2015 and market context. Marco Alverà, who recently joined our management team, will then focus on our international developments. Finally, Antonio will discuss our 2015 consolidated results. We will be able to address all of your questions at the end of the presentation. We are pleased once again to report a solid set of results for 2015 in what remains a relatively weak operating environment. In 2015, gas consumption totaled 67.5 BCM, up 8.9% versus the prior year. This growth was due to the increase recorded in the residential and thermoelectric sectors, only partially offset by lower consumption in the industrial sector. Gas consumption in the residential sector was up by 11.5%, while in the thermoelectric sector, gas demand was up by 16.8%, mainly driven by the significant reduction in hydroelectric production. Gas injected into the network for the 2015 was up 8% compared to 2014. Snam's sound operating performance over the period is reflected by the 3.65 billion euro of revenues and the 2 billion euro of adjusted EBIT, both increasing compared with 2014. It is a remarkable result that confirms the solid operational capabilities of the group. The increase of 12.2% in the adjusted net profit is the combined result of, firstly, the further reduction in our average cost of debt. Antonio will share all the details in a moment. Secondly, higher contribution from our associates, highlighting in particular the sound returns of our European investments. And finally, lower income taxes. Turning to our growth path, our investments are aimed at increasing the flexibility, liquidity, and security of both the Italian and the European system, enhancing gas flows and interconnectivity of EU markets. In 2015, we deployed total investment of approximately 1.54 billion euro. Around 1.3 billion euro was attributed to CapEx for infrastructure development in Italy, in line with the guideline provided at the beginning of the year, and around 0.3 million euro to financial investment, mainly related to the acquisition of the 20% equity interest in TAP. Consistent with our strict financial discipline, CapEx was covered by the operating cash flow, which reached a sound level of more than 2 billion euro. This allowed us to maintain a solid balance sheet with a net financial debt of around 13.8 billion euro, up by only 100 million euro compared to the year end 2014. As you know, Snam has consistently been committed to delivering sustainable and attractive return to its shareholder. On the basis of 2015 sound results and considering our solid capital structure, the Board of Directors yesterday decided to propose at the annual general meeting a dividend distribution of 25 euro cents per share for the fiscal year 2015, thus confirming our announced dividend policy. The fiscal year 2015 dividend, subject to the approval of the shareholder meeting, result in a dividend yield of around 5% at the top of the range of the utility sector. I would like to draw your attention to the market context of our main business, transmission and storage on one side and distribution to the other. Looking at the transmission and storage business, the European market is evolving rapidly. The EC has set out a plan for a single energy market through the integration of national infrastructure and increasing import route diversification. All of this will boost the national all of this will boost the security of supply and requires flexible infrastructure. Shippers are now demanding a full suite of services to meet short-term consumption needs. The answer to which is the offer of integrated short-term services of transport, storage, LNG. Snam intends to play a significant role in the integration process, leveraging on its strategic asset in Italy and trying to pursue further profitable investment opportunities abroad. On the other side, the gas distribution business in Italy is very different when compared to the transmission and storage business. It is labor-intensive, requiring daily interaction with local institutions, has a distinct regulatory framework, and it is characterized by small-scale investment on a continuous basis. In addition, the distribution business is entering an important moment of change connected to the recently started concession renewal process, which is expected to enhance the consolidation of the operators. As part of the ongoing process of analysis and evaluation of strategic options to maximize value of its shareholders and take into account the evolution of the business the group is involved in, at a domestic and international level, the board of directors of Snam identified the opportunity to launch a feasibility study on a possible industrial and corporate reorganization design to separate Italgas from Snam. Snam plans to submit the outcomes for the feasibility study to the board of directors for approval and therefore to approve and present its 2016-2019 strategic plan to institutional investors and financial analysts by July 2016. I will now hand you over to Marco Alverà, our Chief Operating Officer, who among others runs the international business.
Thank you, Carlo, and good afternoon. First of all, let me say it's a great pleasure to have joined Snam, a company with a great track record, interesting opportunities, and a strong management team. Today, I will briefly take you through the results achieved in our international activities in 2015. Overall performance has been positive, with 105 million euro of income from associates, mainly from TAG, that was not in the 2014 results, and the good performance of TIGF, which had an EBIT 14% higher than 2014. In 2015, Snam also took an important strategic step through the acquisition of a 20% stake in TAP from Statoil. The TAP pipeline, which will bring 8 billion cubic meters of Azeri gas to Italy from Turkey, is one of the key pillars of Europe's energy policy, as it pursues the objective of diversifying gas supply sources. TAP will support the creation of alternatives to Russian gas supply, open a southern corridor for supplies from the Caspian and the Middle East, as well as contribute to the creation of a gas hub in the Mediterranean. Collectively, this will increase European security of supply, market liquidity, and competition from different sources. Last but not least, TAP will support important infrastructure developments by Snam in Italy. Snam's decision to participate in this project will reinforce the company's role and that of our Italian gas infrastructure system in Europe's strategic approach to gas security of supply. I will now hand over to Antonio, who will discuss our 2015 results in more detail.
Thank you, Marco, and good afternoon. We are pleased to report a positive set of consolidated results for 2015, a year characterized by significant events. The beginning of the new regulatory period for storage business, a significant recovery in domestic gas consumption, the consolidation of La Spezia's distribution company, Acam Gas, into the distribution business segment starting from April, the implementation of a liability management exercise that allowed us to further optimize our debt structure in terms of both maturity and cost, and the cancellation of the Robin Hood tax and the reduction, starting from 2017, of income tax rate IRES from 27.5% to 24%. Looking at the 2015 consolidated income statement, adjusted EBIT amounted to 1,990 million euro. The growth of regulated revenues and the control of operating costs supported the 2015 operating margin, recording a level close to 2 billion, up about 1% versus 2014 adjusted EBIT. Net profit grew by 3.3% to 1,238 million. If we do not consider the non-recurring items related to the one-off pension fund provision in the distribution business and the restatement of the deferred tax fund following the reduction of the income tax rate, adjusted net profit amounted to 1,209 million, an increase of 12.2% compared to 2014 adjusted net profit. This growth is primarily driven by the increase in adjusted EBIT, up 17 million, the reduction in net interest expenses, down 13 million, and the positive effect of the Robin Hood tax cancellation, 87 million. Total revenues amounted to 3,649 million, an increase of 83 million euro compared to 2014. Regulated revenues, net of pass-through components, rose by 58 million euro, up 1.7%, broken down across the different business lines as follows. Transport revenues increased by 17 million euro. The positive contribution from investments carried out in 2013 equal to 76 million, and the positive impact of 4 million due to the growth of gas injected into the network were partially offset by tariff adjustments of around 63 million euro. Distribution revenues grew by 46 million as a result of the consolidation of SE Torino starting from July 2014, worth 33 million, and of Acam Gas in April 2015, worth 14 million euro. On a like-for-like basis, level revenues confirm the substantial stability of the distribution business. Despite the reduction of WACC from 6.7% to 6% in the fourth regulatory period, storage revenues were almost in line with the previous year, benefiting from the contribution of investment entered into operation in 2014. Other revenues increased by 16 million euro, mainly as a consequence of the disposal of non-operating gas inventories in the transport business, 22 million. Moving on to operating expenses, total costs amounted to 850 million. Net of pass-through items, operating costs totaled 724 million, increasing by 51 million compared to 2014. Controllable fixed costs increased by 11 million, mainly as a result of the consolidation of SE Torino and Acam Gas in the distribution sector. Variable costs rose by 12 million, resulting from a non-cash item related to the evaluation of gas inventories. Other costs totaled 164 million euro and were impacted by the pension fund provision of 40 million recorded in the distribution business, related to the new law approved in August 2015, and the risk fund provision of 32 million euro related to the balancing activity in the transport business. Finally, the 18 million euro growth in non-regulated costs is mainly related to the previously mentioned disposal of gas inventories, with a positive impact on EBIT of around 3 million. I will now provide a brief breakdown of costs by business. In the transport business, cost increased by 68 million, mainly as a consequence of the gas inventory disposal and of accounting effects related to the evaluation of gas inventories. In the storage business, the reduction of cost of 30 million is mainly related to the non-recurring risk fund provision accounted in 2014. The distribution business reported an increase in cost of 26 million, mainly related to the change of perimeter. Consolidated EBIT adjusted for the 40 million euro one-off pension fund provision amounted to 1,990 million euro, an increase of 17 million, up 0.9%, compared to 2014. This was mainly a result of 58 million euro increase in regulated revenues, net of pass-through items, 11 million euro increase in controllable fixed costs, and 46 million euro increase in depreciation and amortization, higher than the organic depreciation trend due to a 21 million euro effect of the changes in the distribution business perimeter. Let's now move on the contribution of our non-consolidated associates and their impact on both income and cash flows. Net income from associates amounted to 135 million euro, recording an increase of 4 million euro, mainly due to the contribution of TAG, 73 million, partially offset by the absence of AS Torino contribution reported in 2014. Cash in from associates amounted to 214 million euro in 2015, increasing by 106 million, mainly due to the TAG ordinary dividends, 77 million, an extraordinary dividend distributed by TAGF following the restructuring of its debt in 2015, amounting to 61 million, and the reduction of dividends from the Italian associates, mainly related to the consolidation of AS Torino and Acam Gas. Moving on to the results of the 2015 debt optimization exercise, the main actions executed may be summarized as follows. New recourse to the debt capital market for a total amount of 1 billion, with an average tenor of around 8 years, exploiting favorable market conditions and the further compression of Snam spread. In particular, the 750 million euro bond executed in November 2015 has been part of a liability management exercise which included a buyback of 1 billion euro bonds with an average residual maturity of less than 2 years and an average coupon of around 3.8%. Regarding our banking facilities, in 2015, Snam performed in advance pool banking facilities refinancing for an overall amount of 3.2 billion euro. We extended the maturity of these facilities by 1 year and reduced the related costs. The new contractual arrangement allowed the company to further reduce the cost of these credit lines following the BBB+ rating assignment by Fitch in July. Cancellation of certain relatively expensive EIB financing for around 300 million euro with significant cost savings, and new EIB financing for approximately 700 million euro at competitive conditions. Uncommitted credit lines also played an important role, exceeding 1 billion euro at the end of the year, benefiting from abundant market liquidity and a favorable interest rate scenario. It's worth stressing the fact that the actions carried out in 2015 are in line with our financial strategy and the achievements consistent with our targets. In 2015, cost of debt decreased to around 2.8% versus 3.2% in 2014. The fixed rate portion is 64%, in line with our plan to have around 2/3 of our debt at fixed rate. The maturity profile is well spread over time, avoiding major concentration issues going forward and without banking refinancing until end 2017, with an average maturity of around 5 years. The strong liquidity profile covering 24-month maturities. Turning to the net profit performance, net profit in 2015 rose to 1,238 million euro, up 3.3% compared to the previous year. 2015 net profit adjusted for special items amounted to 1,209 million euro, recording a 12.2% year-on-year growth. Please remember that 2014 net profit was adjusted for the effect of the deferred tax fund of the Robin Hood tax cancellation, 120 million, while 2015 net profit is adjusted for the effect of the deferred tax fund on IRES tax reduction, starting from 2017, 57 million. In addition to that, we accounted for the net impact of the one-off pension fund provision, 28 million euros. In addition to the previously discussed impacts on adjusted EBIT, net profit growth has been supported by the following contribution: a further optimization in the financial structure, with a net positive impact on interest expense of 17 million euros, the benefits of a lower average cost of debt, more than 40 million, have been mitigated by the non-cash items such as lower interest during construction and the effect of the fair value of long-term liability related to the dismantling fund. The already commented upon positive contribution from international activities, 4 million, and finally, the reduction in income taxes of 93 million, primarily due to the positive effects of the Robin Hood tax cancellation. Turning to the cash flow, we are proud to present strong results. In 2015, the significant amount of CAPEX, 1.2 billion euro, M&A activities, 0.3 billion, and dividends, close to 0.9 billion, was almost entirely financed with the cash generated in the period, maintaining debt substantially in line with the 2014 levels. Cash flow from operations amounted to 2.054 billion, having recorded a stable level of working capital. The significant contribution of cash from operating activities fully financed net CAPEX of 1.162 billion, resulting in a relevant position free cash flow before M&A activities of 892 million euro. 2015 net financial investments absorbed cash of 121 million, following the acquisition of a 20% stake in TAP, 208 million, the acquisition of the residual stake in ACAM, 46 million, and a tag price adjustment for 14 million euro. These investments were partially financed by a positive cash inflow related to TIGF due to the reduction of Snam's stake in the company, 84 million, and to an extraordinary dividend of 61 million following the refinancing exercise realized by the company in 2015. 2015 free cash flow reached 771 million, financing nearly 90% of the full year dividend payment of 875 million. Thanks to the contribution of cash flow, net debt at the end of the year amounted to 13.8 billion euro, allowing the group to maintain a leverage ratio of 52% in terms of net debt on RAB and associates. Thank you very much for your attention. We are now pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Good afternoon, everyone. Marco Porro speaking. Before starting the Q&A session, let me remind you that the question regarding the strategy looking forward will be addressed during the next strategy presentation expected within July. So we would be grateful if you can focus today's question on 2015 results.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question at this time, please press the star or the asterisk key, followed by the digit 1 on your telephone. Please ensure the mute function on your telephone is switched off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. If you find that your question has already been answered, you may remove yourself from the queue by pressing star 2. Again, please press star 1 to ask a question. We will now take our first question from Cosma Panzici from Bernstein. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. Cosma Panzacchi from Bernstein. Thank you for taking my questions. I have a couple on gas distribution and one on the international activities of the company. On gas distribution, you have said that the tender process is finally underway. However, the number of tenders so far is relatively limited, and appeals are slowing down the process, like, for example, the one in Venice. So do you still see the timing of the tenders as coherent with your current strategic plan? And do you think that the recent communication by the antitrust and the regulator to the government could change the process or speed it up? On top of this, in the past, you have indicated that you would be willing to cooperate with partners in gas distribution tenders. Is there any way in which you can highlight what are the key characteristics that you would look for in such partners? And finally, on the international business, we have seen the presentation of the TAP deal. We also know that you have been expressing some interest in the Gas Connect in Austria. Could you give us a brief update on the status of the Gas Connect discussions and when are the next milestones in that case? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I answered the first question. We are ready for the start of the concession tender process. However, if you consider the new Mille Proroghe decree, the decree envisages 1 year's postponement of the start of the tender. So we believe that the first concession could be awarded in 2016. Anyway, I think we have in the program of our objective to increase 10% the share market of Italgas. In particular, we estimate that Italgas will take part in 3 or 4 tenders in the second part of the year 2016.
Regarding Austria, it's Marco speaking. In general, we don't comment on M&A activity. On this case, I would just highlight how Austria is an important country for us. We have the TAG infrastructure. Whatever we look at in Austria is aimed at maximizing the value of our existing assets, always with our strict financial discipline. At this point, we have no update on the process or on any dates to report back to you.
To complete the question for the distribution, your question, today we don't have on the table option for a partner in the distributions.
We will now take our next question from Jose Ruiz from Macquarie. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for taking my question. I just have 2. The first one is regarding the outlook for 2016. You put in your press release. You're talking about flat gas demand. You have increased this year. Gas have seen increase of 8.9%. What makes you so confident that gas demand will remain at this high level? And secondly, if you can share with us what is the ratio of net debt to EBITDA in Italgas at the end of 2015? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. In the gas demand evolution, we have to consider that the decrease in the hydroelectric power generation is, let me say, in line with our expectation. Usually, the existing consumption in 2015 is a standard consumption during the last 3-4 years, apart from 2014, which is unexpected evolution. We estimate a gas demand in 2016 weather adjusted around 69 BCM.
Our next question comes from Oliver van Dosselaer from Exane. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking my questions. I've got 3 questions. One is just a quick one on number. We saw a big increase in the cash from associates, raising by 106 million euro this year. I was wondering if the 214 million euro is a level of recurring dividend stream that you expect going forward. And then a second one is on Italgas. I understand you wouldn't comment at the moment on your future strategy, but I was wondering, you're saying that you're looking at the possibility of a demerger. I was wondering if you could just say a bit more on the reason and the rationale of actually doing an operation like this. And maybe my third question would be relating to that. I guess it's tricky to phrase it in a way that you can answer it, but you just said that you have no option on the table with regards to a partner in distribution. I think that may seem a bit surprising relative to press speculation that we have seen recently with regards to Airete Gas. I understand you can't comment on any operation, but what you seem to suggest today is that there are actually no discussions at all taking place, and I wonder if that's indeed the case. Thank you.
Very first and easiest answer, in connection with the cash flow coming from the affiliates, this year we had an amount of around, in terms of cash flow, 200 million euros, out of which around 60 million comes from distribution of extraordinary dividends from TIGF. I would say that the rest, 130 million euros, 135 million euros, can be considered as a reasonable guideline, a reasonable level for having for the projection next year, 2016.
I answered the second question, and after we have a previous question, Antonio.
In relation to the previous question, the financial ratios of Italgas today, at the end of 2015, has a net financial debt in the range of 1.9 billion euros, an EBITDA of 740 million euros, so a debt on EBITDA ratio of 2.5 times, and a debt to RAB of around 33%.
The distribution evolution, as part of the ongoing process of analysis and evaluation of the strategic option to maximize the value for its shareholders, the Board of Directors identified the opportunity to launch a feasibility study on a possible industrial and corporate reorganization designed to separate Italgas from Snam. I can say that their separation could have a strong strategic value and would provide a number of benefits to both Snam and Italgas and to all our shareholders. The potential growth of Italgas could be better exploited by Italgas as an independent operator. At the same time, the separation could be designed to maintain a solid capital structure for both Snam and Italgas and to unlock financial flexibility for Snam. We give you more visibility of the operation at the end of the feasibility study during the next strategic presentation. The second aspect, you said the potential merger between Italgas and 2i Reti Gas. There is not any pending negotiation with third party relating to the possible combination involving Italgas.
Thank you very much.
Our next question comes from Enrico Bartoli from MainFirst. Please go ahead, your line is open.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for taking my question. A few on my side. First of all, on net debt, actually you did much better than what consensus was expecting. Are there any, let's say, one-off in terms of evolution of working capital that are going to reabsorb during 2016, or can we assume that the level at the end of 2015 is, let's say, a clean starting point for next year? Regarding that, if you can also give us a guidance on the cost that you expect over 2016. Then I have a question regarding dividends. So if I'm right, your dividend policy, actually the current one, official one, finishes with 2015. Now we'll have to wait 4 months before the strategic presentation. Could you elaborate a bit on the 25 cents, the sustainability, should in the case that the transaction related to Italgas doesn't go through, so it can still be considered a floor for the company as a whole. And the third one is related to international activities. If you can update on, let's say, the projects regarding Snam and Fluxys, about the possible integration of international assets, if there are any development there. Thank you.
starting from our net debt at the end of this year, it is true that compared with our last guidance, we actually registered an improvement in the net debt, mainly thanks, I would say, to, first of all, a structural improvement of about 100 million euro related to better operating cash flow performance and the extraordinary dividend from TAGF for 60 million. So both these elements can be considered structural. We also have an additional 100 million euros of advantage coming from the working capital. The working capital optimization, 50% of that I would say can be considered structural. The other 50% is the result of the balancing activities that does not depend to the company, but depends on the position of the ship, the choices of the ship. Therefore, for 2016, we do not expect significant deviation from our usual guidance on neutrality of the net working capital, unless the item that could arise from the balancing mechanism. All in all, I would say that this level can be considered the reference, the right reference for next year. In terms of cost of debt, the cost of debt of the company, of the group for 2015 was at the end of 2.8%. The guidance for next year is 2.6%, arising from just giving you some color that we have around 1.1 billion euros of refinancing exercise on bonds that are going to maturity at 70% of debt are at fixed rate with a coupon of 4.375%, and you can understand the possibility, the opportunities that we have in front of us for reducing our cost of debt from these exercises.
The second question, Enrico. The future dividend policy is clear, will be outlined during the strategic review, also take into consideration the outcomes of the feasibility study. But let me say we are fully aware that the dividend policy is one of the key pillars of our equity story, and therefore we are committed to maintain an attractive and top-ranking return of our shareholder, and we have been doing in the past.
Regarding Fluxys, I would just note we have a constructive ongoing relationship as regards the reverse flow to bring the gas outside of Italy, and that's it for what concerns our agreement with them. As a consequence of our acquisition of Statoil's stake in TAP, we also have now become co-owners in TAP and therefore participate with Fluxys to the governance and board of the company.
Our next question comes from Antonello Bianchessi from Citigroup. Please go ahead, your line is open.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Just a quick question on TAP. Can you just highlight the economics of this infrastructure? Because in the light of very low gas prices, is still new infrastructure something that you think it's kind of, is the future of this industry, or you would expect a different gas price to be able to support this type of investment? The second question is on the equity method income participation, if you can give us a split of what is of the different component. The other question is on Italgas. You mentioned financial flexibility. Does it mean that this, that there will be a sale, that there will be a placement of the company at some point, and that, do you think that really the Snam need more cash availability, or I misunderstood? Thank you.
Antonella, I will start with the TAP question. I think overall, these types of projects in today's environment will clearly only be built if there's a long-term commitment underlining them. In the case of TAP, there is a 25-year shipper pay commitment for 100% of the volume, so there's no volume or price risk for the developers of the project. The return we target is in the low double digit, and our overall equity commitment to the project is around 400 million euros. This assumes around a 70-30 financing, debt to equity financing, coming into play in 2017.
Antonella, as far as the contribution of our equity investments, the contribution of our profit and loss is the following. The total contribution from affiliates in 2015 has been accounted in the amount of 135 million, out of which 30 million is due to the distribution, to the Italian distribution, 20 million from Toscana Energia, and 10 million it is a pure accounting item coming from the revaluation of Acam Gas following the consolidation of the company. The rest, 105 million, are the result of the international activities, 73 million from TAG, 23 from the AGF, and 10 from the interconnector. In terms of cash flow, the total cash flow received is in the amount of 214 million, out of which 197 from the international activities.
Antonella, to be very clear, currently the attention of the feasibility study is only focused on the spin-off.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Stefano Gambarini from Equita SIM. Please go ahead, your line is open.
Good afternoon, everybody. A few questions. First of all, regarding the capex, I understood that the guidance was for 1.3 billion euros, slightly lower, of operating capex in 2015. Now there are also this 121 million of financial investments. I didn't catch clearly what is this 121, because there are many different financial investments during 2015. And if you can give us a guidance of operating capex that you expect for 2016. The second question regarding the situation of the doubling of Nord Stream from Russia. It seems that the project is going ahead. So do you see any risk for the TAP project, or do you think that at the end of the day, no, the project is already approved and you don't see any risk on that? And finally, regarding the tax rate in 2016, what is the tax rate, the net tax rate you expect for the company? Thanks.
Stefano, first question, net financial investment at the end of the year was around 120. In terms of cash, the result is the following: 200 million euros of investment for TAP, 40 million euros for ACAM, so 240. Less 80 million euros received from the following the entrance in the AGF of one partner, so the decrease of our participation from 45% to 40.5%, and the residual 60 million euros coming from the extraordinary dividends, also in this case coming from TAGF, following the restructure of their debts during this July. So the net is 120.
For the capex, Stefano, you remember our guideline 2015 was 1.3 billion. We have some saving in the cost of materials, and the final number is 1.270 billion. And the estimate of the capex for 2016 is 1.250 billion.
Certainly, as you know, we're not involved in Nord Stream 2, so we're not in a position to comment if and when and how it will be built. But certainly regarding TAP, it could not have an adverse impact. In fact, TAP is all about Caspian gas. It's about diversifying away from Russian gas, adding new sources. So the case for TAP would be even stronger in a case of Nord Stream 2. TAP's on schedule to deliver in 2020, I would say, regardless of what happens in terms of other sources. And just a more general comment, I think the more infrastructure projects there are landing to the outside of Europe, the more need for additional capex into Europe, connecting especially Eastern Europe, will be necessary, which is just strategically tends to be good news for TSOs like Snam.
Just one quick more question, if I may, regarding the costs. In 2015, there were a lot of different items that impacted the cost. Could you give us a sort of clean cost base for 15, and what is your guidance for 16?
I would also answer to your question about the tax rate anyway. The tax rate in 2015, the reported one was 27.4%. Adjusted for the one-off component is 30.7%. So I would suggest a guideline for the for the current year of around 31%. In relation to the OPEX, to the operating expenses, 2015 OPEX net of pass-through components increase of about 50 million euros compared to the previous year. The difference, Stefano, is mainly due to, first of all, the higher controllable fixed cost, 11 million euros, due to the, as already said, the consolidation of AS Torino and ACAM. Secondly, an increase of 20 million due to the utilization of gas in stock sold in the period. And thirdly, another 20 million related to the accounting and non-cash item due to the valuation of gas inventories. You know, shippers give us gas in kind. When the gas enter into our stock, the price is the spot. The valuation is the spot. When he exit the price, the value is the average cost of our stock. It is true that in 2014 we had a significant amount on one-off cost or non-recurring cost in the range of 90 million euros. In 2015 we have some one-off item for similar amount, namely 40 million euros for the pension fund provision, something more than 30 million euros for the credit provision related to the balancing activity in the transportation. That concludes the provision for this item. Now, the entire amount of receivable in discussion with the authority of around 130 million euros has been there is a whole provision on that. And the last element is a 14 million euro of higher write-off due to the operational activities for the substitution of pipelines, in particular in the transmission segment. All in all, I would say that our controllable fixed cost, the guideline is something around 500 million euros for this year. 500 million euros for controllable fixed costs that traditionally represent around 75% of our total cost.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Maurice Choi from Royal Bank of Canada. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon. Three very quick, hopefully easy questions for management. First question is on TAP for slide 12. You've got 73 million euros as your income from TAG. I just wanted to TAG being the Austrian one, just want to make sure that is, I guess, normal moving forward, or should we expect something slightly higher due to the stub year held? Second question is on Italian regulation. I recognize that we obviously finalized everything late last year. Just wanted to know whether if there were any updates for, I guess, next year's review that you can share if you at all have any discussions with the regulators. And lastly, obviously the feasibility study is on Ital Gas. Can I just pick on your brains a little bit and ask why is this not also done for other parts of your business, such as storage, for example? Thank you.
The easiest one is for TAG, for sure. For TAG, the contribution to our net income for 2015 can be also be considered the reference for 2016 due to the fact that the regulation will remain the same. I mean, we expect the new regulation starting from 17, the year 17. Therefore I confirm that.
For the regulator, I can comment the transmission regulator, which is 80% of our revenue, our business. You know that 2016 is the first year of the regulatory period, and the next update will be end of 2017, starting from 2018. But I can confirm that the adjusted of the work in 2018 is only for the factor beta. The last question is very why we don't consider the spin-off of the storage. I said, if you know in my speaking notes, that the European strategy and the Italian strategy and the TSO Snam strategy is to manage an integration of transmission, storage, and LNG, which is very strategic to follow the gas strategy at European level. For the interconnection of the different countries in Europe and specifically to maintain strong power in defining the modulation capacity we have in Italy with the storage.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Our next question comes from Anna Maria Scaglia from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, thank you. I've got a very quick question on the equity income contribution, in particular on TAG. What is the reason of the big change in the performance versus the guidance you gave at the beginning of the year? Because at the beginning of the year we were talking about some negative impacts which were for the early years of the consolidations. And now it seems that the performance is much better than when you guided at that time. So I'm wondering what has changed really. Is operating or is something else? Thank you.
So, I remember, Anna Maria, when we gave our guidelines in terms of contribution from our international activities, we were prudent about TAG, just because it was the first very moment of the acquisition. We bought the company December 2014, January 2015, and therefore the expectation, the guideline we have were very prudent in the range of 40-50 million euros, which was the acquisition plan, let me say. The result in the range of something more than 70 million euros for the 89% of the company are does not factor any no recurring item, and can be considered again, repeat, the guideline for next year.
Our next question comes to Diaz from UBS. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon all. 3 quick questions from my side. And sorry for pressing on Italgas again. This is the first question. And the question is, can we assume that one of the benefits from a full demerge of Italgas for Snam will be a higher level of available capital to pursue growth opportunities? And secondly, and is a bit of a follow-up, can you just remind us by how much could you increase your net debt in order to pursue growth opportunities, excluding the 1.1 to 1.2 billion euros that you were planning to deploy in the gas distribution consolidation process? And the last question is, if you currently see any interesting growth opportunities in Europe or elsewhere. I mean, apart from Gas Connect Austria, do you see any other attractive projects or M&A where Snam could be involved? Thank you.
For the third question, let me say, to be very frankly, we can give you some granularity and visibility after the feasibility study. But anyway, we have to consider that we manage, as usual, the financial policy with a prudent approach without jeopardize the capital structure. And this will be the result in our operation.
I would just add that the logic behind the feasibility study is the one outlined, which is purely looking at the differences between the two industrial activities and nothing else. And when looking at M&A, again, we don't comment on specifics, but this is not the driver of the project that was announced today. And when looking at M&A, we look at a step-by-step prudent approach with financial discipline. Thanks.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Oliver van Dosselaer from Exane. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Yes, thank you very much. Just two follow-up questions, actually, which are linked, and again come back to Italgas. Actually, I was wondering if you could remind us where you stand at group level in terms of net debt to RAP today, and then just another one when you talk about the getting to an optimal, I guess, capital structure for Italgas and for Snam, if the spin-off occurs. It looks like even if you expand by 10% your market share on the gas distribution business, that your net debt to RAP at Italgas will actually probably still be below 50%. I think you can go up to 60% in that kind of businesses today. So I was wondering how you see Italgas as a possible tool to optimize the capital structure, and if you think you can lever up your gas distribution business. Thank you.
For being clear, end 2015, our debt to RAB and affiliates leverage was 52%. The leverage I gave you before for the sole Italgas is not a reference, because it is just the situation in Italgas within the wider consolidated accounts of Snam. And let me say that today for us, the numbers that are taken under control for discussing with for assessing our balance sheet and our financial strength are the number at the total level of consolidation. So the leverage of 30-something% for Italgas is just the situation today within a wider situation for Snam. Is not the reference for the future.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Pablo Casrudo from HSBC. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Just two quick questions probably for Antonio. The first one is on the equity associates. We have been discussing the contribution from TAC, has been expected or better than expected. I was wondering whether you can provide an overall guidance for this year on the overall equity associates. I mean, do you keep or do you expect to maintain that 130 on the P&L, or we should expect a minor decrease taking into account a slightly lower stake at TIEF and probably a negative PPA from the TAP? And second, just to confirm as well, because I'm not so sure I understood correctly, for the guidance for net debt for this year, did you say that you are expecting basically the same amount that you have reported, assuming that working capital is not having any change and assuming the capex of 1.25 billion?
I will start from the affiliates. At the end of 2015, the contribution from our affiliates onto our profit and loss was, the number was 135 million euros, out of which around 10, actually it was 9 million coming from the revaluation, one-off revaluation due to the, after the acquisition of the entire 10%, so the residual 51% of ACAM. So the 125%, 25 million euros could be the reference for this year. So between 120 and 130 million euros is the guideline for 2016. We will have to assess if there is any negative PPA effect from TAP due to the fact that also TAP is under construction, but I do not think that we imagine significant numbers. So also considering a possible impact of this from TAP in terms of PPA, the 120-130 million euros is the number I would take into account for the projection. In terms of net debt at the end of this year, the guideline we have in mind is a total financial debt of 14.2 billion euros, considering the usual activities, operating activities, and 200 million euros of cash call coming to TAP. We do not include in this guideline any M&A transaction, any disbursement for the M&A transaction. So 14.2 billion euros. This is coherent, this is consistent with the guideline, with the perception we have that also for this year the net working capital evolution will be neutral from a cash flow perspective.
There are no further questions at this time. I'd like to turn the call back to your host for any additional closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And if you need any additional follow-up or any discussion material, please refer to the IR department. Thank you.